I never thought I'd be the guy posting on a cheating stories subreddit, but here I am. I guess I should start at the beginning, where things first started feeling off. My wife, Emily, and I have been married for 6 years. Things were good for the most part. At least, that's what I thought. We had our routines. I worked long hours as a project manager, and Emily handled the house and freelanced as a graphic designer. We weren't perfect, but I thought we were solid. A few months ago, Emily joined a new gym. At first, I was thrilled. She'd been talking about wanting to get healthier, and I encouraged her to go for it. She started with a lot of energy, coming home glowing and talking about her new trainer, Alex. I'll admit, hearing about Alex didn't faze me at first. She said he was helping her with her form and keeping her motivated. I figured he was just doing his job, but over time, her gym enthusiasm turned into something different. She was going nearly every day, sometimes twice, and coming home later than she used to. She'd brush it off, saying she got caught up or stayed to stretch. She started dressing up more, not just for the gym, but even for errands. Emily's gym bag was always packed and ready, and she'd light up whenever a notification popped up on her phone, quickly hiding it from view. It felt strange, but I convinced myself I was overthinking it. The first real gut punch came one night when I overheard her on the phone with her best friend Hannah. I was in the kitchen grabbing a drink when I heard Emily's laugh from the living room. It wasn't her usual laugh. It was that flirty, playful laugh she used to have when we were first dating. I stayed quiet, but then she said something that stopped me cold. He's so much better than Henry in every way. I froze. What the hell was that supposed to mean? I wanted to barge in and demand answers, but instead, I stood there like an idiot, my heart pounding. When she hung up, I casually asked who she was talking to. She smiled and said, "Oh, just Hannah," then changed the subject. I didn't press, but that comment replayed in my head for days. The more I paid attention, the more things didn't add up. She was glued to her phone, her notifications always silenced. If I asked her about the gym, her answers were vague, like she was trying to keep things as surface level as possible. Even when I suggested joining her for a session, she laughed and said, "You wouldn't like it. It's more my thing." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But something about the way she dismissed me made me feel small, like I didn't belong in her new world. It was the first time in our marriage I felt like I was on the outside looking in. I haven't confronted her about it yet. At this point, I'm still trying to piece together what's really going on. Maybe it's nothing, and I'm just paranoid. But then again, maybe it's everything I'm afraid of. I guess time will tell. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. That comment Emily made, "He's so much better than Henry in every way," echoed in my head every time I saw her. Every little thing she did now felt suspicious. The way she locked her phone, how she always had a new excuse to spend more time at the gym, the way she avoided eye contact when I brought up her new routine. It all piled up. I wasn't ready to accuse her of anything outright, but I couldn't sit with this gnawing feeling any longer. One night, after dinner, I decided to bring it up. Emily was scrolling through her phone on the couch, her gym bag packed and ready by the door for another early morning session. I sat down beside her, trying to stay calm. "Emily," I said, my voice steady, "can we talk for a minute?" She looked up from her phone, her face neutral but guarded. "Sure, what's up?" I hesitated for a moment, wondering if I was about to open a can of worms I couldn't close. "I overheard you talking to Hannah the other night. You said something about someone being so much better than me in every way. What was that about?" Her expression shifted instantly. Her eyes narrowed, and she let out a sharp laugh, one that didn't reach her eyes. "Seriously, Henry? You're eavesdropping on my conversations now?" "That's not the point," I said, trying to keep my tone even. "I want to know what you meant by that. It's been bothering me." She rolled her eyes and leaned back on the couch. "Oh, my God. It was just girl talk. We were joking about random stuff. You're really blowing this out of proportion." Her reaction didn't sit right with me. She wasn't even trying to explain. It was all about deflecting and making me feel like I was crazy for asking. "I don't think I'm blowing it out of proportion," I said. "You've been acting different lately. The gym, the way you're always glued to your phone, coming home late. I feel like you're shutting me out." Emily's face hardened. "Wow, So now I can't have my own life without you thinking something's wrong? I didn't realize I had to report my every move to you. That's not what I'm saying, I replied, frustration creeping into my voice. I'm saying something feels off, and I want to talk about it. If there's nothing going on, then just tell me. She stood up abruptly, crossing her arms. Nothing is going on, Henry. You're being paranoid. Maybe you should take a look at yourself instead of trying to blame me for your insecurities. That hit me like a slap in the face. Insecurities? I didn't even know how to respond to that. All I wanted was reassurance, something to put my mind at ease. Instead, I got this wall of defensiveness and blame. It felt like she was gaslighting me, twisting things around to make me doubt myself. Emily grabbed her phone and her gym bag, her movements sharp and deliberate. I'm going to bed. I have an early session tomorrow, and I don't have the energy for this. And just like that, she was gone, leaving me alone on the couch with my thoughts spiraling. Was I really being paranoid? Or was she hiding something? Either way, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to get answers from her. If I wanted the truth, I'd have to find it on my own. After our confrontation, things between Emily and me shifted. She acted like nothing had happened, like our conversation had been a passing storm that cleared overnight. But for me, the doubt lingered. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. If anything, her behavior only added fuel to the fire. Emily's gym visits became even more frequent, and I started noticing patterns. She always left for the gym at specific times, times that seemed to align suspiciously with Alex's schedule, which I found on the gym's public website. On days he wasn't working, she either didn't go or made a half-hearted excuse to skip her workout. It wasn't solid proof of anything, but it was enough to keep my suspicions alive. Her attention to her appearance also ramped up. Emily had always been naturally beautiful, but now she was putting in extra effort. Perfectly styled hair, carefully applied makeup, and new gym outfits that left little to the imagination. I tried to tell myself it was just part of her fitness journey, but my gut told me otherwise. One night, while she was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the counter. I glanced at it and saw a notification from Alex. Just his name popping up made my chest tighten. I couldn't see the message without unlocking her phone, but the timing felt too coincidental. I knew I needed more than gut feelings and circumstantial evidence. So, I decided to follow her. The next day, I left work early, pretending I had a late meeting. I parked my car a few blocks from the gym and waited. Sure enough, Emily showed up right on time, her gym bag slung over her shoulder. I stayed back, watching from a distance as she walked inside. For a moment, I felt ridiculous, like some kind of stalker, but my need for answers outweighed my embarrassment. About an hour later, she came out, laughing and chatting with Alex. They stood by his car, and the way they interacted, it wasn't normal. The playful swat on the arm, the lingering eye contact, the easy laughter. It screamed familiarity. They weren't just trainer and client. There was something more there, something unspoken but obvious. I clenched the steering wheel, my mind racing. They didn't kiss or touch inappropriately, but their body language told me everything I needed to know. Still, it wasn't enough to confront her. Not yet. If I came at her with just this, she'd deny it, call me crazy, and spin it back on me like she did before. I needed something concrete. That night, while Emily slept soundly beside me, I lay awake, formulating a plan. I couldn't ignore this any longer, but I also couldn't risk jumping the gun. If I wanted the truth, I'd have to dig deeper. By this point, I felt like I was unraveling. Emily and I went about our routines like everything was normal, but I knew better. Her dismissive attitude and secretive behavior only fueled my suspicion. She acted as if the confrontation we'd had never happened. No reassurances, no explanations, just an icy wall of indifference. I wasn't going to let it slide this time. I needed proof, undeniable and clear, to confront her with. That's when I decided to use a microphone. It felt invasive, but I couldn't keep relying on gut feelings. I found a tiny, discreet recording device online. It was small enough to slip into her gym bag and sensitive enough to pick up conversations. I tested it to make sure it wouldn't make any noticeable noise or be easily found. The tricky part was planting it. I waited until Emily went to the bathroom one evening, her gym bag sitting by the door as always. My heart pounded as I carefully tucked the microphone into an inner pocket. I angled it so it wouldn't be buried by her other stuff, hoping it would pick up anything worth hearing. When she came back, none the wiser, I breathed a small sigh of relief. To cover my bases, I also installed a recording app on her phone. That part was harder. Her phone was practically glued to her hand or locked tight. But I managed to sync the app while she was in the shower one night. I set it to record audio remotely whenever she was at the gym. It wasn't something I was proud of, but at this point, I needed answers. The next few days were agony. Every time she left for the gym, I felt like my stomach was in knots. When she came back, I'd retrieve the microphone late at night while she slept, downloading the recordings to my laptop. Each time, I felt a mix of dread and relief, terrified of what I might hear. At first, there was nothing, just the usual gym sounds. Weights clanging, upbeat music, muffled chatter. But as I kept listening, patterns started emerging. Her conversations with Alex were different. The playful tone, the laughter, the way she lingered around him. It wasn't what you'd expect between a trainer and a client. Then, one night, I heard something that made my blood run cold. "I wish we could have more time," Emily's voice said, soft and low. "It's getting harder to keep this from him." Alex's voice came through next, quieter but unmistakable. "We just have to be careful. He'll never find out." My hands trembled as I listened to the rest of their conversation. They talked about meeting up outside the gym, about how to stay discreet. It wasn't a long recording, but it told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't in my head. This wasn't paranoia. It was real. The next day, Emily left for the gym like always, her demeanor as calm and casual as ever. She had no idea what I knew. Watching her walk out the door, I felt a mix of anger and determination. I finally had the proof I needed. The question now was how to use it. I thought I was prepared. I'd spent days listening to those recordings, trying to steel myself for what I might uncover. But no amount of mental preparation could have braced me for what I found next. After slipping the microphone back into Emily's gym bag for another session, I waited. When she returned, cheerful and casual as ever, I retrieved the device while she was in the shower. This time, the audio was different, clearer, closer, more damning. I sat in my office late that night, headphones on, as I listened to the latest recording. At first, it was the usual gym chatter. People discussing workouts, the sound of weights clanking, muffled music in the background. Then, I heard Emily's voice, soft, laughing, intimate. "You're impossible," she said, the kind of teasing tone I hadn't heard her use with me in years. Alex's voice followed. "You're the one who keeps distracting me." There was a brief pause, and then the sound started. Shuffling, heavy breathing, the unmistakable sound of kisses. My stomach churned as I realized where the conversation had gone. "No one's around," Emily whispered. "We'll be quick." My mind raced. They weren't just flirting. They were doing this in the gym, in a locker room, or some secluded area. I could hear every betrayal, every stolen moment they thought was hidden from the world and from me. My hands clenched into fists as I listened to the intimate noises that followed. I couldn't bring myself to finish the recording. I ripped the headphones off and threw them across the room, breathing hard, my chest tight with anger and heartbreak. This was it. The proof was undeniable. There was no misinterpreting what I just heard. But I didn't storm out of the office or confront her right away. No, I needed to think. As much as I wanted to march into the bedroom and throw her out of the house, I knew she'd twist it around. She'd try to gaslight me, play the victim, make me look like the bad guy. I wasn't going to let her win that easily. Instead, I started planning. If Emily and Alex thought they could get away with this, they were wrong. I wasn't just going to confront her. I was going to expose them both for exactly what they were. And I wasn't going to do it quietly. By the time I decided to confront Emily, I'd played that recording over and over in my mind. Every word, every sound, burned into my memory. I was done holding back. This time, I was going in with the truth, and there was no way she could talk her way out of it. That evening, I waited until after dinner. Emily was in her usual spot on the couch, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding, and sat down across from her. "We need to talk," I said, keeping my voice as steady as I could. She barely glanced up. "About what?" I didn't respond right away. Instead, I pulled out my phone, opened the audio file, and hit play. Emily's laughter filled the room, followed by her whispered words to Alex. "No one's around. We'll be quick." Her face went pale instantly. She fumbled with her phone, her eyes darting everywhere but at me. When the recording ended, I leaned forward. "Care to explain that?" I asked, my voice cold. Emily blinked rapidly, her mouth opening and closing as if she were searching for the right lie to feed me. What is that? Where did you get that?" "Don't play dumb," I snapped. "I put a microphone in your gym bag. I've been listening for days, Emily. I know everything. Don't bother lying." She stared at me, her expression shifting from shock to anger. "You were spying on me," she hissed. "Do you even hear how insane that sounds?" "Oh, I hear how insane it sounds," I said, standing up. "What's insane is my wife screwing her trainer in a locker room and thinking I wouldn't find out." She jumped up too, her voice rising. "You had no right to invade my privacy like that. If you had any trust in me, maybe we wouldn't be in this mess." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was trying to turn this on me? After everything I'd uncovered? "Are you seriously blaming me right now? You're the one cheating, Emily." That's when her demeanor changed. The deflection and anger gave way to something colder, more calculated. She crossed her arms and smirked, like she was daring me to keep going. "Fine," she said. "You want the truth?" "Yes, I slept with Alex. More than once. Is that what you wanted to hear?" The casual way she admitted it made my stomach churn. She didn't even look sorry. She didn't look like she cared at all. "Why?" I demanded. "Why would you do this to me?" Emily shrugged, her tone dripping with disdain. "Because, Henry, you're boring. You're predictable. You come home, you go to work, you sit in front of the TV. Alex makes me feel alive. He makes me feel wanted. And honestly, I didn't think you'd ever figure it out." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. Boring? Predictable? I'd done everything I could to support her, to make her happy, and this was how she repaid me? "You're unbelievable," I said, shaking my head. "After everything we've been through, this is what I get?" She rolled her eyes. "Oh, don't act like you're some perfect husband, Henry. You're not exactly thrilling to be around." That was it. Any lingering sadness or heartbreak I'd felt evaporated in that moment, replaced by pure, burning anger. If she wanted a fight, she was going to get one. "This isn't over," I said, my voice low and steady. "Not by a long shot." After Emily's cold admission, I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let her or Alex walk away from this unscathed. She thought she could get away with it, but that smug attitude only fueled my determination. If she didn't care about wrecking our marriage, fine. But she was about to find out the consequences of playing with fire. The first step was Alex. I'd heard enough to know that what he was doing wasn't just unprofessional. It was outright disgusting. Sleeping with a married client, flaunting it in plain sight at the gym, and thinking there wouldn't be repercussions? I was about to make sure his world came crashing down. I started by gathering all the evidence I had. The audio recordings, the times Emily had mentioned Alex, and every suspicious detail I'd logged over the past few weeks. Then, I called the gym. The manager, Carla, picked up. I recognized her name from Emily's stories. She was no nonsense, always making sure the gym ran smoothly. I figured she'd be the perfect person to handle this. "Hi, Carla," I began, keeping my voice calm. "I'm calling about one of your trainers, Alex. I have some concerns about his conduct with clients, specifically, my wife." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "What kind of concerns are we talking about?" I took a deep breath and let it all out. I explained how Alex had been sleeping with Emily, how their affair had unfolded right under the gym's roof, and how I had proof. Solid, irrefutable proof. Carla didn't interrupt me. When I finished, she sighed heavily. "This is disturbing, to say the least. Do you have that proof available? We take things like this very seriously." "I can send it to you right now," I said, already pulling up my email. "It's not just inappropriate, it's a liability for your business." Within minutes, I sent over the audio clips and a detailed timeline of everything I'd uncovered. Carla thanked me and assured me they'd handle the situation immediately. The next day, I got confirmation. Alex had been fired on the spot. The gym management had confronted him with the evidence, and he hadn't even tried to deny it. Word spread quickly among the members, and by the end of the week, everyone knew exactly why Alex was no longer welcome there. Emily, of course, was furious. She came storming into the house that evening, slamming her gym bag on the counter. "What the hell did you do, Henry?" she snapped, her face red with anger. "I did what any husband would do when their wife's screwing her trainer," I replied coolly. "I reported him. You can thank me for that little bit of karma." Her hands clenched into fists, but she didn't deny it. Instead, she glared at me, her voice dripping with venom. "You just couldn't handle it, could you? You couldn't take the fact that someone actually made me happy for once." Her words stung, but I refused to let her see it. "Oh, I can handle it just fine," I said, crossing my arms. "But you and Alex? You don't get to walk away from this like nothing happened. Actions have consequences, Emily." She stormed off, slamming the bedroom door behind her. I knew this was just the beginning of her unraveling. With Alex gone, she'd lost her partner in crime, and the whispers at the gym were bound to follow her everywhere she went. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of satisfaction. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about justice. And I wasn't done yet. Getting Alex fired was satisfying, but it wasn't enough. Emily had humiliated me, betrayed me, and acted like she could brush it all off without consequence. If she thought she could walk around with her head held high after everything she'd done, she had another thing coming. It was time for the world, our friends, family, and anyone else who mattered, to see her for who she really was. I started by compiling everything I had: the audio recordings, the timeline of her lies, and even snippets of her flippant, cruel remarks from our confrontation. I wanted to make sure there was no room for her to spin the narrative. She wasn't going to play the victim this time. Once I had everything ready, I uploaded the recordings and screenshots to a private file-sharing platform and created a detailed email. I sent it to a carefully curated list of recipients: our closest friends, her family, and a few acquaintances who I knew would spread the word. The subject line was simple and to the point: the truth about Emily. In the email, I laid it all out: her affair with Alex, how it started, her complete lack of remorse, and the audacity of her trying to blame me for her actions. I didn't hold back. I even included a message at the end: "I thought you all deserved to know the truth. This isn't about revenge, it's about honesty." Emily made her choices, and now she has to face them. It didn't take long for the fallout to begin. My phone started buzzing within hours. Messages flooded in, some expressing shock, others anger. Her family was livid, with her sister calling me to apologize on Emily's behalf. "I can't believe she'd do this," she said, her voice shaky. "I'm so sorry, Henry. You didn't deserve any of this." Even our mutual friends, the ones I thought might take her side, reached out to offer support. "We had no idea," one friend wrote. "We're so sorry you went through this. Let us know if you need anything." Emily, of course, found out almost immediately. I was in the kitchen when she came barreling through the door, her face a mix of rage and desperation. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she shouted, slamming her phone on the counter. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Oh, I know exactly what I've done," I said calmly. "I told the truth. Something you should try for a change." Her hands shook as she pointed at me. "You've ruined my reputation. Everyone's talking about it. My friends, my family. I can't even show my face at the gym anymore." "Good," I said, leaning against the counter. "Maybe now you'll understand what it feels like to be humiliated." She tried to argue, to twist things around like she always did. But this time, she had no leverage. The evidence spoke for itself, and the court of public opinion had already ruled against her. For once, she was the one on the defensive. The next day, I took it a step further. I packed up all her belongings, her clothes, her shoes, her makeup, everything, and piled them in garbage bags. Then, I drove to the gym, where I knew Alex's termination had already caused a stir, and left the bags right outside the front doors with a note attached: "Emily, you left something behind. Thought you'd want it back." It was petty, sure, but it felt good. The look on her face when she found out was worth every second. By the end of the week, Emily's social life was in shambles. The whispers and judgment followed her everywhere she went. Alex, too, was struggling to recover from the damage. I heard through the grapevine that he'd been blacklisted from other gyms in the area, and his personal training business had taken a nosedive. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I had control again. Emily and Alex had tried to tear me down, but they'd only succeeded in destroying themselves. And I wasn't done yet. After the public fallout, Emily was like a shadow of her former self. The confident, smug woman who once laughed off my suspicions was now avoiding eye contact and walking on eggshells around me. But I wasn't interested in her guilt or excuses anymore. I'd already made my decision. Our marriage was over, and it was time to make it official. The next morning, I met with a divorce attorney. I laid out everything: the affair, the recordings, the timeline of her lies. My lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Dana, nodded as she took notes. "This is plenty of evidence to ensure you come out ahead," she said, flipping through the documents I'd provided. "You're entitled to more than half of the marital assets given the infidelity. And if she tries to challenge you, this proof will shut her down." Hearing that gave me a sense of vindication. Emily had stripped me of my trust, my pride, and my peace of mind. At the very least, she wasn't going to take anything else from me. That evening, I came home and found Emily sitting at the kitchen table, her face drawn and pale. She'd been avoiding me since the email and the scene at the gym, but now she seemed to be mustering the courage to say something. "Henry," she started, her voice shaky, "I made a mistake." I raised an eyebrow, leaning against the doorway. "A mistake? That's what you're calling it now?" She winced but pressed on. "I don't know what I was thinking. Look, I know I hurt you, but we can fix this. We've been together for so long. Doesn't that mean anything to you?" I laughed, a cold, humorless sound. "Fix this? Emily, you didn't just hurt me. You destroyed everything we had. You didn't make a mistake. You made a series of deliberate choices to lie, cheat, and humiliate me. And now that the consequences are catching up to you, you want forgiveness." Tears welled up in her eyes, but I didn't care. Not anymore. "Please, Henry," she pleaded. "We can go to counseling, start fresh. I'll do whatever it takes." I shook my head. "It's too late for that. I've already filed for divorce." Her face crumpled at those words. "Divorce? No, we can't." "We can," I interrupted, my tone firm, "and we will. I've got all the evidence I need, Emily. There's no coming back from this." She tried a dozen different tactics over the next hour. Tears, apologies, even attempts at seduction. But I didn't waver. I was done being manipulated. Every word she said only solidified my resolve. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal proceedings. Emily fought the divorce at first, but Dana's airtight case left her with no room to argue. The recordings, the timeline, and even the public fallout were more than enough to tip the scales in my favor. In the end, she had to accept a settlement that left her with the bare minimum while I kept the house, the car, and most of our savings. By the time the divorce was finalized, Emily had moved out. I didn't bother to see her off. I blocked her on every platform, deleted her number, and erased every trace of her from my life. It wasn't just about cutting ties. It was about reclaiming my peace. She'd taken enough from me already. Now, it was my turn to start over. Subscribe so you don't miss new stories on the channel.